Senator Blackburn, are you there? Hi, Senator Blackburn.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Absolutely. Delighted to join you.
Wonderful. Let me just make sure. I don't see your camera on, so I don't see you.
Oh, let me see what we've got here. There we go.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining me. This is Charles Moscowitz. I am joined by United States Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, who has taken a little time from her obviously busy schedule to join us and discuss her new book, which is The Mind of a Conservative Woman. Senator Blackburn, it reminds me a little bit of my dear friend, the late great Phyllis Schlafly, who, right? I mean,
Yeah.
brings out something that is obvious, but yet often eludes the establishment, which is that not only are there conservative women, but there is a large and very vocal and powerful and pervasive and influential movement of conservative women, and has always been. And you, as a sitting U.S. Senator, are truly a leader in that movement, and it's very exciting to see this developing. I want to start by just, I have to ask a couple of horse race questions, given the fact that there is a national election coming up. How do you perceive President Trump and conservative candidates for Congress doing amongst women in this coming election?
You know what is so interesting to me is this year you have, well, look at the Cato Institute survey that came out. 62% of the American public does not want to say what they think about political issues or political candidates because the left is so overheated. As I say, I would rather them be enraged than to be in charge. So we're having to deal with this kind of as it is. But I think that what you're going to see are some good solid wins for the president. I know that I have talked to women all over the country as we've been promoting the book since it came out last week. And Charles, I have to tell you, there are people that say there is no way I would answer a pollster's questions when they called my house. They're fearful of retribution, of losing jobs, of being canceled out. So they are just sitting quiet and just trying to ride this out. So, quite
And who can
frankly,
blame them?
yeah, I think when you look at the polling in these Senate races and you see, well, it's a heat race. Uh, 20% of the people, 10%, 15%, 12% are still undecided. And you
That's
think,
big.
well, they're probably really not that undecided. It is just that people are going, I am not going to tell you anything because I don't want to get a backlash from having said something. And I think that's kind of what we are beginning to see. I think part of the telltale in this, as I look at numbers and I look at verbatims, uh, when you read through this, and let's take women. They say, well, women are all going for Democratic candidates. Well, that is not true. When you look at the issue set, the number one issue with women is safety and security. The number one purchaser of handguns in the country right now, it is females. So those are givens. Those are things that we know. And then when you ask the question, who do you trust to deal with safety and security, law and order? It is Donald Trump and the Republicans. So I look at that and I think that's your edge. Because you've got people that just will not answer the question, especially some of these polls that are saying 20% are yet undecided.
Right. I mean, it's especially in my neck of the woods here in Boston, Massachusetts. I mean, people are afraid to be too open and vocal in their support for the president. But yet, in the 2016 election, Donald Trump did better in this state than people thought. I mean, that's something that people don't really realize widely. Now, President Trump has a vacancy on the Supreme Court. He has indicated that he will be choosing a conservative woman for the position who would catapult that woman into a very high profile position as a leader of conservative women and of all women. What do you see that as in terms of affecting the race for the presidency and for the Senate?
What we know is that the president will make his announcement Saturday at 5. And then those of us that hold seats on the Senate Judiciary Committee are going to immediately get to work to do our job vetting that nominee and talking with them, getting through the committee hearings. We'll probably have 3 or 4 days of hearings. Then we will vote the nominee out of committee and take them to the floor for a vote. So that is what the process is going to be. I fully believe that we can finish this task prior to the November 3rd election and look forward to voting for a constitutionalist to take a seat, a constitutionalist, a textualist, originalist to take
Yes.
a seat on the Supreme Court. So,
Oh, it's a
you know,
glorious thing. And it's important, especially given that if the election is anyway close on a national level, there probably would be uh, legal challenges which could end up in the Supreme Court, and you need to have an odd number of judges so that there's not a tie.
that's
Um, you have been very outspoken, and you've presented legislation in terms of ensuring that the drug companies create and produce drugs in the United States, because we found out due to the pandemic that many of our drugs come from China. And President Trump has been very strong. Recently spoke at the UN in terms of challenging China in its position in the world. How do you think the administration is doing with regard to China? And did the president take the right tone at the UN?
I think the president has done a very forceful job in dealing with China. Go back to the 2016 campaign. And he said, we're going to deal with these trade issues with China. They're taking our jobs. They're not fair. We have an enormous trade deficit with them. They're stealing our intellectual property. And the president has absolutely been true to his word on that. When it came to pharmaceuticals, I have a bipartisan bill. Senator Menendez and I had filed this before COVID, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And what it would do is repatriate our active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturing to the United States. It would incentivize that return of that sector. And then it would also provide grants to institutions of higher learning to partner with pharmaceutical manufacturing companies on advanced manufacturing concepts. So we feel like this is a way to train the workforce, to bring that industry back so that we no longer get in a situation where all of the heparin coming into the country is contaminated. We can't get antibiotics for little ones. They're just not there in the marketplace. There is a scarcity. Or we can't get active pharmaceutical ingredients that are needed for developing a vaccine for COVID 19. So these are all different considerations. And yes, we're going to continue to work on this.
Wonderful. Glad to hear. The book,
Yes.
again, is The Mind of a Conservative Woman. This is available in all major bookstores. It's available at Amazon. Senator Marsha Blackburn is a true leader of conservative women and of all Americans. And I guess that you're a supporter of conservative institutions, and you do so unabashedly. It's not so easy for people like myself in Massachusetts to be so unabashed, but that could change. You know,
Sure,
there
it could.
there are, I think, rumblings. I think we might see some surprising closings of the gaps, especially given how some of these states handled the COVID virus, which was horrible.
I think you're exactly right. You are going to see some gaps, and this is why you are seeing women began to come back to President Trump as for his candidacy. It's why they're coming back to Republican Senate candidates because what is so interesting, Charles, and this is one of the things I cover in the book, and the book addresses the bias and the prejudice the preferencing that takes place against conservative women. And certainly as we go through the Supreme Court fight, we're going to see this writ large, if you will. And they're already tearing up the women who would be, who are potential nominees. And we don't even know exactly who it's going to be. But also, you're going to see during this election year, the left is going to continue to say that conservative women are out of touch. They're not in touch with the issues that are important, that they are a throwback to a bygone era. And so many times I will be talking to women's business groups, and I will have somebody during the Q&A say, hey, Marsha, you know, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm an independent. I look at the candidate. I look at the issues. And after hearing that regularly, I started looking at them and saying, okay, tell me what your filter is. Tell me about the things that are important to you. What they would say is, I want equality. I want justice. I want fairness. I want to make certain that government stays in its lane. I don't want them making decisions for my health care or for my children's education. I want to make certain there's opportunity for all. I want somebody that believes in the Constitution and believes in the American dream. And I thought, you know, what they're doing is giving me our first principles. They're giving me that conservative construct. So I think it is up to us to get that message out there as to what conservatism is, where we are on these issues, why these decisions matter. Because we know our opponents, if they were to get the House, the Senate, and the White House, they've told us what they're going to do. They're going to take away your health insurance and give you Medicaid, not Medicare, Medicaid for all, socialized medicine. They're going to do the Green New Deal. They are going to pack the Supreme Court and take away the Electoral College and give DC and Puerto Rico statehood. Now, that is their first 100-day agenda. That's what they're going to accomplish.
Completely radical.
In 100 days. Well, you had AOC, who is kind of leading the radical left, do the video this weekend and say, vote for Joe Biden if you don't like him. And by the way, let this moment radicalize you.
Yeah, I heard that. And she's really the de facto leader of the party now.
Correct. And you're right about that. So I think it is important for people to listen to their friends and neighbors who are well informed and then get out there and cast their vote.
Absolutely, and I think most women want the same thing that most men want. They want to see security in their neighborhood. They want to have low taxes. They want to get into business and not have onerous regulation. They want to see many of the things that the Trump administration has accomplished already. I mean, extraordinary success by any standards. And I think that hopefully, God willing, people are going to wake up in time and come around.
Right. That would be, yeah.
I mean, I'm concerned about what the opponents are going to do in terms of, hundreds of thousands of mailed out ballots to anonymous people, and getting local state courts to extend the voting day. I mean, so they can keep counting and keep counting and keep counting until they get what they want. How dangerous is that to our republic? I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, you have to have a deadline.
Yeah.
And even the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes envelope that they send to every household has a deadline that it has to be returned by in order to be counted and be eligible. So let's think about that. And to say, oh, we're going to mail to every household a ballot, and then you can send it in, but we're not going to check postmarks, or we're just going to keep counting until we get back the number of ballots that we mailed out. This is just, that's ridiculous. I mean, we never have 100% return when people go to the ballot box, and you're not going to have 100% return. So I know there are many states that have said they have to be postmarked by election day, that day,
Right.
then they will be counted within the week. So there are things that I think it's vitally important. I know some states say return them by election day, and their deadline is before. So in Tennessee, we have an absentee voting process. If you want to vote absentee, you can contact the election commission. You can request your ballot. That is noted on your voter registration that you are voting absentee. If you go to early vote, we also have an early vote that begins 3 weeks prior to the election. You go in and you early vote. That is noted. And then there is, of course, the opportunity to actually vote on election day. So people have their options. But when the polls close, it doesn't matter if it's an absentee ballot, an early vote, or a day of vote. When the polls close, the ballots are counted and the results are given. And I quite frankly think that's the way it ought to be.
Well, I just hope that people's cats aren't voting on that day, so we have to be
Yes,
very careful. And I just want to
indeed.
one final question I want to ask you because during your campaign for the U.S. Senate, you had a situation by which your social media was shut down and your
Yes.
website was shut down, and then there were apologies made. We're talking like 1 week before an election, and it just seemed awfully coincidental that this would happen. And I think that I mean I've been told that my program has been shadow banned. Other people who are in conservative movement, even Breitbart's been cut back by 40%. I
Yes,
think.
and we have our legislation, the 230 reform bill that we had its first hearing in Judiciary Committee today. And we look forward to moving that out. Also, in the book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, I write about the occurrence with Taylor Swift and some of those things that happened during the campaign. And in the book, talking about what this election season and conservative women kind of arming themselves up. I have some guidelines in the book how to talk to friends and neighbors about these issues that are pretty important political issues that many times people will say, well, I'm just not sure how to have that conversation. So we have that in there. This book is a little bit of history of the conservative movement. It is a little bit of my story with different stories and incidences that have happened. And it's a lot of great guidance for women who are in the public sector, private sector, not for profit work that want to be able to explain why they believe what they believe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me, U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn. The book is The Mind of a Conservative Woman, available in all major bookstores. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Senator
Thank you.
Blackburn.
Bye bye now.
All right. Bye bye.